necessarily want to pay for computers over 10 years. But the idea would be that you keep that in the budget, so that when those computers are paid for, then you go out and use the exact same money to go get new replacements.
One of the ideas that we're getting feedback from members of the public, one of the ideas was, well, if you go after an override, what if you bundle things together, right? Instead of asking one big question, you determine a way to ask smaller questions, and so you might get some, you might not get some. But the purpose of this first exercise was to say, well, what might go into the override to accomplish the things that are on this list, and directly link them to a purpose and a value to the community and the kids.
So, what's the process here?
Well, the process is to discuss. I mean, I can tell you that some people in town feel that a school-only override, they won't vote for it. They want to see maintenance involved. But the fact is that they don't have a plan for maintenance. And, and my point at the meeting was, I can't go forward and come back to my board and ask them to cut something out of our budget for a potential, another bureaucratic, part of town. So, that didn't go well. There were some people that only wanted maintenance, some wanted a combination, but the threat of doing an override with part school and part maintenance is that there's a very real option on town meeting floor that they get separated out. And maintenance will pass and the schools will get nothing.
That could definitely happen.
So there's that thought, and then there's other people who feel that we have parental involvement like we haven't had in the past, especially with the younger families, because they haven't tend to be involved at all in the past, and now we have that, and we've got motivated people who want to go out there, and we've got some momentum going, and we should just go for just a school override and get us not necessarily where we would like to be, what would, the ideal, but at least get us to the point where next year we're not asking for more money at the same time as asking for a debt exclusion for a potentially $40 million school.
Right, and I think
Of which would be on the hook for half of.
clearly last time we did the override, it was a school override,
Yep.
and it was a very,
Oh, it wasn't a town school override?
No, there was, well,
I thought there was, like
Yeah.
2
there
or
were
300,000,
some for the
right?
puppy
It was.
center.
There was $1 million.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
we
'cause
were
I-
767
Right,
of it.
I was gonna say, you
Right.
had about
Okay.
700.
That's why it was so close.
Right. And that is, that is the risk. I mean, we all agree that the maintenance of the town buildings, and we believe, I believe, I'm sure most of us believe schools are town buildings, just like any other building.
yeah.
But the fact is that without a clear plan
We're
for that
5 weeks
maintenance
away with
idea,
no
there's
plan.
nothing, I can't,
And our kids are at risk of ending up with nothing.
right.
Yeah.
And they're at risk of ending up with nothing,
And I shouldn't say nothing, because nothing's
no.
not the
less
right
than they
word.
have now.
Less than they have now. Thank you.
And and when you see the accomplishments that we've made, especially when DECA
DECA.
came
Or
in,
or the clubs, the
Or-
Builders Club,
right, and the Builders Club Awards. I mean, they're certainly doing amazing things. The question is, we're cutting at the core now, so how much longer are we going to be able to make those achievements?
Well,
Well,
look at the number of kids in DECA.
But keep in mind, a lot of what we're seeing for successes are older students.
Oh.
Correct.
students.
That's
So now you have
Exactly.
the younger students
Oh,
who
absolutely.
are now, they've been feeling the pain of the cuts.
Yep.
I think MCAS has been showing us some information that we have some cracks. It's a subtle term. But it's cracking. And if they go into high school that way without a chance to have remedial services, we're going to have students that don't graduate because they can't pass MCAS.
Right, and we don't have that right now. We haven't had that.
No.
No, I mean, it's inevitable. The problem I'm having with this right now is no matter what number you look at when you get the number, if you're successful in the override, because our revenue base grows so slowly as a town, you're always going to have difficult decisions to make the next year.
Right.
So even if you got the full $2.8 million, or let's pull out the one-time item, so $2.4 million, and the rest is on leases, then that money is expended. The following year, we have a budget that's $2.4 million higher, and then we have contractual issues that come up. The town is at usually a break even after healthcare costs, right? And the Prop 2.5 levy limit is barely enough to cover it. We don't have growth, we have minimal growth, if anything at all. So we're in this position all the time. And the only thing that gets us out of it is, like I was saying to Eric earlier, it's declining enrollment, it's restructuring contracts.
Well, it's also vision
or-
for the town. It's also the town deciding what it wants to do going forward and setting up a strategic plan on its own for understanding that
But all
a
that
2.5 override only gets us about $300,000
Yeah,
a year in income for the
Any
town.
plan they come up with, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to gain any traction.
Yes.
In the meantime, we have an entire generation of students working through a school system, and the proposals on the table right now are proposals that are looking at anywhere between a 10 and 25% tax increase before we talk about the increase on a new building.
Right.
And then we still have to make cuts in fiscal 13, unless the state comes through with state aid. The state aid is the life preserver, that's what happens.
Right.
And,
And they're cutting this year.
yeah, so, there's only so much gambling that
And
can go on.
this budget doesn't account for a 5 to 6% reduction in chapter 70, is that correct?
Correct.
Well, I see a letter.
Not the answer I wanted, but.
Well, the town is accounting for that in its overall budget.
Yeah.
That's where you see
They
it.
are.
And I
I mean,
do,
our net school is our net school.
Right.
If
Whether they give it
everybody's
to us
doing
or
what
not,
we're
it
doing.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
okay.
There's a letter in the packet that went to does this go to the teachers union?
Yeah, with all the union.
They
Have
went
we
to all
gotten
the
any-
union
All
heads.
They went to
union
all
and
of them?
non-union.
Have we gotten any feedback or any responses at all on that?
We've
Nothing
received
formal.
no formal responses at this time.
But we also do have some sense of control because we're coming up to a new
Well,
teacher's contract
The
next
teachers-
year.
For fiscal 13.
13.
13.
That's what I'm saying.
For
That's
12,
what I'm saying.
for
So you're-
12, the
Yeah, that
contracts
would
are there.
help, that's right.
That's
That
what
will
I'm
help,
saying. We
right.
have some
That's
measure
right.
of.
Correct.
And my
right.
guess is you're gonna see some retirements in that interim. People that, after
But I
next
mean,
year.
I think it's an important point because we went through the last time
Yeah.
and we're all looking at, okay, well, in 3 years, everything's gonna look better.
Right, and we're-
it's not, but
And
so
that's-
we may enter into the negotiation saying, it's
not
still
looking
not better.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean?
exactly,
So-
and and that is an issue for a lot of people, is that the fact that technically there are raises for the teachers next year in an operating override.
There's raises for underpaid teachers who haven't gotten a raise in 2 years.
Yep.
And again,
And
our
the
lack of
candidate-
planning in our town should,
And
Not
the
be balanced
givebacks,
on the
and
backs of the
givebacks.
teachers.
No,
Balance
people
on
could
the
argue
backs
we
of
could have
teachers.
also negotiated the contract differently.
they could.
Well, they are
But we
arguing.
did.
They are arguing that.
That
right?
is being
I
argued.
But
understand that.
I still believe that we saved the town a lot of money.
We did.
Over
We saved the town
$700,000.
$700,000, right.
So,
And
And
now it's
I
gonna
think
go
the
up
thing- I think the other thing that
207 next year, right?
we need to be
Just
cognizant
for
of
teachers.
is
Not
our
free with
11,550
everything.
number, with the 899 in there. We asked for new money outside of stimulus of 176, which is less than the teacher raises of 207. Then our initial cuts, going from 899 down to the 642, were 257. Again, covering the teacher raises.
So in effect, we're not asking for the teacher
Correct.
raises.
Right,
Right.
we
That's
laid,
Although
we're
they're still
technically
gonna
getting.
get them, we're not asking for that.
We are
as
not
part of
We're-
it.
asking
right.
for
But
that.
The money's not
it's
there.
not about the money.
That's a great
No,
point.
it is not.
It's
about the
it's-
The
principle
four
of the
teachers
thing.
we laid
It's,
off.
so it's clear.
Cover it.
So it's clear that it's, like Carol said, it's not the dollar amount, it's the
Right.
principle.
Principal.
Because we've cut it. We've not, you know,
It's
you
not
can
a
look at
money
it 9
issue.
ways
And
to
the health
Sunday, we've
insurance
cut it.
costs are recovered
Right.
as well.
So it's a principal issue, and I get that.
We're
you
not
know,
disputing
but
it.
we can't, we can't risk all of these factors for these children and our own children and everybody else's children on principal. There's only so much I'm going to do for a principal.
At some point, you get to reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the 872 leaves all the user fees where they are?
And
Yes,
that's bus
unless
fees.
unless you choose to put money into that
No,
No,
872 will increase fees.
Raises
Period.
them. Yeah, they were not putting.
I'm sorry, George, I'm maybe not understanding what you're asking me.
If you did an 872,
If you're telling- if you're
that
asking
does
me if we
not-
went with that
If we
first
did
option.
the level services budget, if we
Yeah.
went with that budget, which
Nope.
is 872 more, does it leave
No.
That does not do anything, that puts the fees through the roof.
Okay,
to the
no.
$600?
Yeah.
So the number's way up 872.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you talking about
When you
option
pres-
one, the first present, okay, so here's how I'm
You
understanding that.
presented the 872 a few weeks ago. That was with the assumption that we'd have bus
Yes.
fees and the fees would
Yes,
go up.
but let me explain why 872
Okay.
looks different now.
Right.
You cut from 872 down.
257.
Okay. Assuming those are cuts that are real cuts not coming back,
Right.
you are at 642, 642. if you're gonna ask for an override of 872,089, you have
Got it.
$257,176 that you could choose to spend on putting money toward reducing fees.
No, that's not my point.
That's
My
not the
point,
question, yeah.
my point is, if we're looking at if we're going to the town for an override,
Yes.
I think the only chance we have on doing this is we're going for a level services budget, which means it's level service, the district as it looks today.
Oh, okay.
So that would mean fees would stay the same,
Yes.
fees do not go up.
Yes.
So they would stay the same, the transportation is what it is today, everything stays the same. If we look at that,
Stays the
what's
same
that?
as what, George?
As what we
Where
have
is
today,
it?
level
Yes.
services
Yes.
today. So if
he's
we,
looking at free bus, right?
Okay, wait a
yeah,
minute.
exactly
At
what we
level
have today.
services, we were gonna have bus fees.
No, but if we ask the level services, there wouldn't be bus
The
fees.
definition of
Normally.
level services is level services,
Okay.
not
That's
where we
right.
were a
Okay,
month ago in the
no,
budget.
when we gave you a level services budget,
Well, you made some decisions to bring the number down, I understand that.
No,
If
no.
we're looking at pure level services, we're looking at level services that is, as of right now, you have some changing going on because we have shifting of classes,
Yeah.
going to middle school and so forth.
yeah.
So you have to take that into consideration, but
That was higher
right
than
now,
the
there is a
872.
certain transportation structure, there's a certain fee structure for activities, there's a
Right.
certain fee structure for athletics. Whatever that fee structure is, how much more would we have to add to the because 872 gets us to level services, absent those fee increases. How much are the fee increases that we're adding that the 872 is not covering?
Well, for example, what's the assumption on transportation?
Right.
Is the assumption on
What we have today,
1.5 miles?
what we're doing, yes, what we're
Yeah.
doing right now.
Then you
Level
need
service.
five
You
bucks.
have to
buses.
increase services to do that, because you will not be able to do it with 5 buses.
That's fine, so how much is that?
Okay.
That is part,
46,000.
but that's, if we
Another
can't do what we
46,000.
currently do, it's still level services,
Okay.
right? In order to be able to deliver what we're delivering today, it
And
costs
before we
additional
made
money,
those
that
cuts
costs
of
additional money.
250,
Yeah,
that didn't
okay.
include the fee, that was with the fees going up, the buses going 2 miles. All those assumptions were in there before we worked off that number and
Correct.
took it
Right,
down to
right,
57.
because,
That's what I thought,
because on
yeah.
that
Yes.
list,
That's why
it
we,
was.
on that list, we
To
removed
George's
the
point, if you
money.
put all that in, you're gonna be over $1 million on level
Yes, you are.
Level
services.
services.
Yes,
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
to George's point, that would be the argument that true level services is gonna cost 11.5, 1,105,000, whatever.
No, but it leads to a question, because if I'm looking at page 4 of the $1.2 million override, so level 2 override, we're reducing fees by $125 per sport and eliminating the activity fee. If the 872 already included raising the fees, this is not taking this from 600 down to 320, down to $125. It's taking it from the current 450 down to
That's right,
125.
that's correct.
So that means this 1.2 million is actually higher. It should be higher than what's on here now.
What he's saying is like, what's
Yeah.
the price for not adding anything and not taking anything away? Just how it is status quo right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But on the fee,
Pretty good.
the,
Take
Got
my
it.
spot.
I feel the same
Got
way.
it.
Got
You
it.
got it. Good job.
I'm looking for the same
Good
number.
for you, good for you.
that is a good question.
Yeah.
We've lost, in all this juggling all around, we've kind of lost focus of what truly is a level funded.
A little
Level
service.
services.
Level
Level
services.
services. Well, and
Excuse me.
because the other thing the other side of that, which we haven't seen, is what Carol went through with the administrators to get to the number that she presented to us. Correct.
Which one now, Ann?
The cuts you made.
The cuts you made
behind
prior.
the scenes, along with the fees and all, to get to that
you get to
870,
the
whatever you
870.
presented
It's
to us.
the
a little
From
bit
the
ago.
initial, from the
But my
initial
understanding is
recommendation.
that even with those cuts, we were still delivering level services, not counting the athletics and all the
Yeah,
fees.
as you defined it, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's things in there
As
that.
we defined it, it's a system today rolled into next year's cost structure.
Well, yeah, no, actually, there were some cuts that
There were cuts.
there were cuts. There's no
Absolutely.
lockers for the. No increased expenses for lockers in the middle
No, there's
school.
something about a classroom, because remember Carol asked if she can do something different with that, and we were
You
fine
did a
with
set
that.
of
Yeah.
cuts with your principals, and then factored that out and said, okay, this is what we ideally would want, and then we cut from there.
No,
If I'm
I
not
gave the
mistaken.
committee exactly what they asked for, which was exactly.
Well, that's possible, right.
Exactly what we did this year,
Yeah.
nothing added. accept this increase